Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Let's start today's video with a short story to whet your appetite. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. You only want chips with your meal? No problem. Working in a carvery pub/restaurant and serving a gentleman and his wife, comes time to take their food order. The woman orders a fish pie, so I tell her when it's ready we'll let her know and it'll be at the carvery for her to collect and to help herself to any veg/gravy/salad she might like. The gentleman orders a lamb shank and says he wants chips with it. Yep, no problem, can do. I start to tell him the same thing I told his wife, though, that the shank gets brought to the carvery and he can collect it and get any extra veg. He rudely cuts me off and basically shouted, "I just want lamb shank and chips." I say, not a problem, no worries. Get to the till to put the order through. Normally, if someone ordered a shank with chips, I would food text the kitchen to replace the mash for chips, no charge for that. Instead, I food text no mash and order him a 3-pound side of chips. God, I got him so good. Made my night so much more bearable. And our next story. An egg for a hot chocolate. During the winter of my 9th year alive, my parents had purchased their first convertible. I remember my dad rolling into the driveway at dusk with the top down, enjoying the Florida chill. My older brother, 11 at the time, and I were so excited and begged to ride in it right then, as we believed tomorrow was too far away. My parents agreed, but said to get dressed in warm clothing. We change, come out, and they tuck a comforter around us after we'd buckled in. They took us a town over to a bookstore where we all got hot chocolate to enjoy on the ride home to make the convertible just a little more enjoyable. We come to a stoplight, and although the top is down, all the windows are up to reduce wind flow. That's when it happened. 2 eggs smacked the windows, one on the edge of the smaller back window, causing it to get on my brother a little. The 2 teenagers yelled out some insults and peeled off, going right. Now, my father was not yet even 30 and a Marine who had a short fuse. He immediately pulled out of our lane and took the same right, determined to get the punks. I know, not the wisest with children in the car. We followed them before they lost us in an apartment complex parking lot. After a couple minutes, father gives up, goes to exit said complex. While sitting at the stop sign, another car pulls up at the exit no more than 3 yards away. It was none other than D-bag 1 and 2. My older brother sees them before any of us. He immediately unbuckled his seatbelt, stood up, and threw his hot chocolate in such a perfect throw, I don't think I'll ever see anything so beautiful again. This hot chocolatey missile sailed right into the driver's window and exploded upon impact. The D-bags immediately jumped out and yelped about it being hot and it being everywhere. Just as quickly as he'd stood up, older brother sat back down and buckled up. Stares of disbelief all around, father starts driving home with a faint smile on his face. I shared my hot chocolate happily. And our last story. You want to play money games? Okay. So I worked at this place for about 6 or 7 months. Job was super cool. We got to work on some very unique and very expensive toys, and the job summary essentially boiled down to just take this thing and do some cool crap to it to make it cooler. The owner, however, was such a douche that he ruined everything good about the job and made it entirely unpleasant to work there. Constantly changing stuff around mid-project and such. He talked crap about everybody to everybody else and was just generally out for himself and didn't give a crap about anything else. He didn't allow smoke breaks or any breaks other than lunch either, and would fire anybody that argued that it was illegal. I'm not a smoker, but blatantly disregarding labor laws isn't cool. A couple quick stories to give you an idea of the work atmosphere and the owner. The shop didn't have an effing sink to wash our hands in, but he was sure happy with the hot tub he installed, using some of the employees to help in front of his home. He lived on the same property as the shop. He totaled an employee's car with a shooting boom forklift. Employee was out of town on vacation, left the car parked at work. Owner decided that he needed that particular spot on a very large plot of land, could easily have gone next to it or around it or whatever. Worst case, pushed the car out of the way. He picked it up with the lift and put it on top of a shipping container with no wheel chokes or anything. The car was in neutral too, and left it for the employee to deal with when he came back. The car's unibody frame was not happy with being picked up that way. So anyways, when I first started there, timing wasn't too big of a deal. The shop was about an hour's drive from pretty much anywhere livable, and we have a lot of traffic here, and an hour drive time on major roads during rush hour is a lot of time for variables like accidents and construction to compound on themselves, so it was kind of accepted that sometimes people would be a few minutes late. And for lunches, the closest place to get food was about 20 minutes away. There, of course, was no fridge for the employees, so of the hour we had for lunch, we'd have 20 minutes to order, wait for the food to be made, and eat. Again, at first, this wasn't a huge deal, until it was. The owner started bitching more and more as months went by about people coming in late in the morning and coming back from lunch. Of course, he still expected you to be totally willing to put in an extra hour or two at the end of the day to get that little bit more done, because his time was worth more than ours. I'd mentioned something to him about this double standard, and he just kind of brushed it off. One day, a project came up that had a pretty tight deadline. Well, the project had been at the shop for months by that point, with hardly any work getting done, but as we got closer to the deadline, he decided it was important again, and we all had to bust our butt to get it done. There was a part that needed some modifications done, which fell under my scope of responsibility, and although it would take a couple of hours of labor, it didn't require any special tools, so the owner asked if I'd be willing to take it home and knock it out over the weekend to maximize what we could get done in the shop, with my time there being better spent on bigger tasks. I agreed, and he said to just do up an invoice, put whatever on it, and we'll bill it to the company like we do any of our other vendors. I took the part home, modified it as needed, and on Monday I got caught up on work and didn't get around to putting together an invoice. Then it didn't happen the next day either, and so on. A couple weeks go by, and the owner, back on his timing thing, decided to make a rule that he'd fine you $1 per minute you were late. I don't think anybody took him seriously, and I responded jokingly that I was thrilled he was giving me a raise to $60 an hour, and I look forward to my next paycheck. Next paycheck comes, and lo and behold, there's a note on it, minus $128 for 128 minutes of tardiness. There were a couple days where I was 5 to 7 minutes late in that 2-week period, but no effing way was it anywhere near 2 hours. I immediately started looking for another job and giving far less Fs while I was at work. Some other stuff happened, including the owner having a major beef fit about how a new guy had quit after his first week because none of us said a single good thing about him. All we did was talk crap. The new guy had asked all of us individually various new guy questions about working there, and we'd answered him honestly, and had even been more flattering about the owner than he deserved in many cases. It was enough to make him quit. So paycheck time comes around again 2 weeks later, and the finance girl, who happened to be the owner's live-in girlfriend, told me he'd wanted to take another stupid amount off, but she left it on, and maybe I should go talk to him. I thanked her. She is a good person, and I have no idea why she's with this guy, and informed her about the part I'd done at home and the invoice. She said it didn't have to be anything special, just handwrite it on a piece of paper and she'll file it away and write me a check right then and there. So I wrote up an invoice for whatever, just as the owner had said to do. I charged him for 2 hours labor at the specified rate of $60 an hour, $5 for consumables used, and $3 for handling and transportation. Couldn't come up with a better bullcrap charge at the time, for a total of $128. I realized that I was just getting my money back and would have effectively done the stuff I'd taken home for free, but I didn't really miss the money, and it was more about the principle of it. I've never seen a bigger temper tantrum in the workplace than the owner threw when he came storming into the shop and straight over to my area while I was packing up to leave. Turned into a big yelling match. Lots of FUs were exchanged. I didn't come back until a couple weeks later when I came to get my stuff to take it to my new employer. Not so new anymore, but the best place I've ever worked, and knock on wood, I fully intend to stay there until I retire. Bonus add-on. The guy with the car quit the week prior, then almost everybody, basically the owner's entire workforce of skilled trades, quit within a couple weeks of me leaving. You know you've effed up somewhere when your entire effing shop walks out, and when I refer to us as skilled labor, I'm not talking about electricians or plumbers. This was high-level mechanical and fabrication stuff, plus the need for familiarity with the unique machines we worked on that you can only get from a small scope of other related jobs. He can't just put an ad in the paper and pick the best applicant. Finding someone with their right experience for this stuff takes time. A guy that works at my current employer has a friend who purchased a thing from that shop. It had a problem that, while relatively minor, needed to be fixed before his friend took it home with him halfway across the country. My coworker knew I'd worked there and brought his friend in to talk to me, and I informed him that there wasn't really anybody there that could do the work. He has one guy left, but that I could set him up with another very talented former employee that'd be happy to do the work for him. It wasn't something that fell under my skill set. He said he'd like to talk to the company and see what they could do, which would be reasonable if it were any other company, and that he'd get in touch if he needed me. Well, next day he comes back and says the owner quoted him something like $5,000 in labor and a week-and-a-half turnaround time because he doesn't have the manpower to get to it sooner. I set him up with the guy I had in mind, the car guy, and he was up and running for a fraction of the cost the day after. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.